this morning's technical briefing, the projections of the INSPQ, what we're seeing with the variant in the coming weeks based on the information that's available.
What we're seeing is, well, we've put forward two scenarios. One scenario based on a rapid importation of variant, and one scenario based on a more slow importation of variants. And both of those scenarios are linked with the uh, the the way the people will be adherent. Can we say that in English? So both scenarios will be linked with the way the people will be adherent to the measures that are being put in place. And what we are seeing is that the measures that are in place now are having a positive impact on the epidemic. So the curves are really going down, the curves of the cases, the hospitalization, and the deaths. What we see is that if we import some variants, depending on whether we import a lot of just a few variants, we could see the curves go up again, especially if the people are not very adherent to the measures that are put in place. And we're talking about, keeping social distance, wearing the mask, not having any meetings in the house except for your family. So if the people are very, very clean with all those measures, even if the variant comes in, because it has started to come in, even if it comes in even rapidly, we should be able to control the propagation of the disease if the people are really, really careful and do whatever they are asked to do.
What about the idea that the measures itself have been relaxed? So the data that you were talking about was based on, January 8th that we had the curfew come in. And then as of February 8th, the non-essential stores reopened in Quebec. And in a few weeks, we'll have more open. So as much as people follow, is there also the aspect that the more people are allowed to do, the more the variant will spread?
Unfortunately, the more people are allowed to do, to meet with other peoples, the more you give oxygen to the variant to spread. That's why we're saying, it's okay, since the curves are really going great now, less cases, less hospitalization, less deaths, it's very difficult to keep the population within the house and not do anything. So the government has decided to go forward with specific relaxation of some measures. But we do ask the population to really follow the rules very, very tightly. And we ask the people, if they get sick for whatever reason, they have to get some screening and then follow the rules from public health to be able to isolate themselves if they get a positive test.
Tell me though, does the projection show an inevitable increase? Will it just happen in time, regardless of if we have 100% adhesion to the rules or 50% adhesion to the rules? Will there still be an increase in cases and of variant cases regardless? And as some are projecting as well, if we don't change our ways, we might have the variant being the dominant virus. What do you say to that?
Well, of course, like our colleagues are saying, the variant, which is more transmissible, it's like, two people being shoulder to shoulder running. One is faster than the other. It doesn't mean that the fastest one will necessarily win the race. But usually, if you're faster, you will win the race. And that's what's happening with this variant. If it's more transmissible, when it gets introduced in a community, it will eventually take the place of the normal variant that is circulating. The thing is, we have seen this variant, spreading very intensely in some countries. And when the countries put some measures to try to really stop the spreading, it did go down. So it's not because it's more transmissible that it means that we will lose control. But it does mean that we have to be extremely careful if someone is being detected as having the variant. we have to be very, very tight with the measures that we ask them to follow if we don't want to lose control.
So where does that leave us now ahead of spring break, March break, when people will be able to do activities, go to the movie theater, as much as they can do this in a safe way? Is this something they should be doing, especially that we have a very transmissible strain of the virus going around?
Well, you can't keep the kids inside. You can't keep everybody inside. So the measures that have been relaxed are measures mainly for sports outside of the house, which is a low risk activity. So that's great. I mean, we have to give oxygen to the population. Same thing with the cinema. What is being asked is if the people go there, they will be, at a fair distance. They will have to wear their mask. So all the measures are put in place so that this relaxation of the measures is tightly controlled, and they have the government has pinpoint the lowest risk, or the measures that are a lower risk for the population. So if people are very, very serious about this, we should be okay. And don't forget that la semaine de relâche, it takes kids out of the school, which is a place where it is transmitted. So if people don't see as many people as in the school, it might, do the balance between the risk in the school and the risk if you go outside and play in the snow, which should be better. It should not be as bad as we expect.
Hopefully, though, the risk of also not gathering with other families, getting together, because there's also that aspect that people are worried about, which is why, Madame Geneviève Guilbeault was just saying we will have police, we'll have a lot of people looking out on the March break just to be sure people are respecting. So is that important too? Just being sure to not gather?
It's very, very important because one of the place the virus loves is the inside of the house. So when you're always with your family, even if you have a kid that who gets infected, and the infection keeps within the family, it's not great for the family, but it's not bad. If you keep gathering within the houses, it's winter, it's smaller spaces, the ventilation is not as good because it's cold outside. We know that this is a high risk situation, gathering within the houses. So if the population just goes outside, plays outside, goes to the cinema, goes to the arena and goes swimming, but they don't get together within the house, we should really be okay.
Tell me again about the projections. I know they were saying this is a hypothesis. It's based on different factors. Tell me if I can explain this well to the population and so that they understand. In the projections you've just released, what is the best case scenario of the variant evolution in Quebec, Montreal, and what is the worst case scenario? What are we up against that is possibly the worst situation?
Okay. The best case scenario is people being very adherent to the measures, and the variant being imported, a few cases being imported. And this will have the following impact. We should see the curve of the cases continue to go down. Okay, so that's the best scenario. A few cases have been important, people very, very respectful of the measures, and we should see the cases going down. How can I put it in English? The speed of the curve going down might slow down, but the good scenario is, the variant will take some room, but the cases will continue going down, and the hospitalization and the deaths. The worst case scenario is a lot of importation. We don't know yet how many people have imported the disease. We will know that more and more in the coming weeks. But the worst case scenario would be we've imported a lot of cases in December, January, and people get very relaxed about the measures that are being put in place. And then we could see an increase of the cases starting in the following days or weeks, and we could see a curve going back up for the hospitalization and the deaths probably by the end of March or beginning of April. So that's the worst case scenario.
So what can we do, I guess, today to impact that? What can we do to be taking the best case or the worst case scenario?
Okay. The things to do: follow the rules, get as far as you can from inside gatherings, wear the masks, even in outside gathering, if you can't keep the distance of 2 meters, really be very, very careful and do whatever is being asked you to. So that's one thing. The second thing is, if you get sick or if you think you have some symptoms of the COVID, get screened and then follow very tightly whatever the public health authorities will recommend. What we are doing also is that we are deploying the new specific screening for the variant. So the quickest we can deploy that and then have a good idea of how many cases we have, then the government will have to consider whether the measures that are put in place are good or not. So as fast as we can feed the government with this new information, they can adjust the measures. So in a perfect world, people do as they ask, people do what they are being asked to. People get screened when they think they have a disease. We trace the cases, we isolate them, everybody follows the rule, and we feed the government with all the new information, and they react whatever comes up with the new information. So that's how to really keep away from this new variant.